Welcome back, my mystery secret sewing friends. I love everybody's fabric selections that's been put out in the Facebook group. So today is delivery 1 and it's really exciting. I'm not going to tell you guys anything or show you anything because I got this just like you. So we'll be doing this secret sew together. So for today, you're going to go ahead and need your lining fabric. You're going to need to make the choice from your D, and while you're at that, you're going to go ahead and cut out the pieces for A, B, and C. I would recommend getting your zippers prepared. You're going to need some double stick tape. You're going to need your scissors, some marking tools that can be removed. You're going to need a rotary cutter or something that you cut with. You're going to need your rulers. You're going to need your material that was provided in the download section. For getting all your stuff cut out, I would only recommend cutting out the double slip pocket because you can follow along in the resource material that was given to you, and you have a choice. You can either cut these out, and she gives each one of them like this is 10.5 by 11.75, which what I'll be cutting out. But I have this so that I can reference where I need to mark the pleats, okay? So in the material she's giving you today, we have the measurements, the width, and the height. So if you're new to making patterns from Shamballa Bag, she always has your pieces here and exactly what you'll be cutting here. So for example, we'll be cutting out 4 handles today, and we'll be cutting them according to the measurement, which is 2 inches by 20 inches, which is 5 centimeters or 51 centimeters. And so you can just use this cut list. Again, for today, you really don't need to cut anything out, but I would recommend cutting out this double slip piece. So I'm just going to go through the material real quick, and then we're going to get started on what we're doing, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is number 3, which is going to be the strap loops and decorative straps. Then we're going to jump over to handles and decorative straps. We'll be prepping all the material first, so you need to have them all cut out. You can pause this video at any time. It's always going to be on my YouTube channel for you to catch up. Then after that, we'll be going to step 6, 7, 8, and 9, which is finishing that up, but all the sewing we'll be doing at one time. You will need to go ahead and go to Shamballa's website where she gives you the double slip pocket assembly. You click that link from your materials. I'll also put a link in the pin down below so that you guys can go ahead and just click that link for easier reference, because you do need the double slip pocket assembly for knowing how to put this together unless you put it together before in the past. And again, you also need to download the adjustable strap material, and there she just walks you through how to do this as well. So again, she has the cut materials reference for you in the pattern that's on page 13, and in there she talks to you about recommending where you should go ahead and put each one of those on your material. What I normally will do is I take my material, I take my ruler, and I draw a line for all these pieces, and then I come back and cut that. I will not be cutting any material in this video. And again, she does the same thing for the lining so that you can do how you need to get everything put together. I'll be using a bunch of my scraps for my lining because I've got a lot. This is my primary fabric that I end up using all the time. And then make sure that when you do cut this out and you print it, that it's at 100%. Check the 3 centimeter or the 1 inch. I'm only going to be covering that in this lesson because the next lessons then you already have your material downloaded, your pattern pieces cut out, and ready to go for the tutorials. So let's get started. So now once that you've gotten all your material cut out, which is we've gotten done here, you're going to go ahead. I'm going to start out with the lining piece because my straps are done over here. The first part that she says on the pattern is you're going to go ahead and reference back to your pattern piece. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and reference back to the double slip pocket that is included in the pattern. It's the only one that I did cut out. It's going to be 10.5 by 11.75. So the 11.75 is a long way. She tells you there's a measurement on here. It's either 2 centimeters or 3/4 of an inch. You're going to mark that on both sides. You're going to use an erasable pen or something that it doesn't show on the other side, because a lot of times if you use regular pens or markers, they can bleed through over time. So I'm just using my erasable friction pen. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this line, put tape on here, and fold it down. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and draw this 3/4 of an inch line here too as well. And go ahead and put tape on there so you can fold it down. Okay, so once you have it taped, you're going to take that tape off. There you go. And then you expose the sticky side and go ahead and fold it down. The nice thing with waterproof canvas, you can just go ahead and run your fingernails on that. Okay, and then we're going to repeat that on the other side. Now you can choose which side you want to have the back. What I would suggest to do is fold this in half before you do the next step. Just so you have a reference, because if you start sewing this and you put this little piece on there, which is a decorative stitch, it may not line up for your 1/8 of an inch line right there. So I did do a couple of these before I made the video. I had no idea what I was making here. We still have no idea what we're making. That's the whole point of the secret sew. So I just kind of gave myself a reference guide just by folding it in half so I can see what it's going to look like. Okay, so the next step, she tells you, go ahead and get your decorative strap. Go ahead and get your decorative strap, and you're going to put tape on one side, and we'll be folding this in half. That piece was 10 5/8 by 3/4. It's the bias decorative strip. Okay, secure your tape, remove your tape, and go ahead and fold that in half. Okay, so the next step she says is we're going to go ahead and put some tape on the bottom, where's the raw edge. So what you're going to do now is take this and you're going to draw 1/8 of an inch up from the folded line. You're going to take your bias strip, remove the tape, and you'll be adding that on the line that you just drew, the 1/8 of an inch above it line. Okay, push it down. You can just double check your work if you need to. Yep, that looks good. Now, you're going to take another piece of tape and you're going to put it on this side. You're going to remove that tape, and then you're going to bring this up here. So you made a fold line, you know, like I showed you to do. Now you're going to take this and you're going to fold it up here. So they're all lined up like that. I just check it from both sides. Lined up. There you go. That is that. Okay. If it doesn't look right, something looks a little wonky, just pull it off and re-stick it again. Okay? Okay. So once you have that taped together, the next step I want you to do is take the height from your lining and come down 1 1/4 inch, which is suggested in the pattern. You're going to take your ruler and go ahead and measure down 1 1/4 inch and go ahead and mark that. That's your reference line. That's where the pocket's going to go on, okay? So you put that right there for now. Don't do like I did. I accidentally took the wide side and did it. Make sure it's the height, not the width, okay? Mistakes happen. We're not perfect. Okay, so back to this piece here, okay? So in the instructions, we're going to be going back to the sewing machine and doing 1/8 of an inch top stitch. But while we're there, because I would like to do all the sewing machine work at the same time, we're going to put this aside. But before you do that, you're going to take your pattern piece once more and you're going to mark your reference mark. Just line this up on the bottom edge, okay? Right on the bottom edge, and mark these lines. You got 1 inch, 1/2 inch there, and an additional 1/2 inch. And that's why I said you want to cut this pattern piece out so you can mark that. The next one you're going to do is 5 1/4 from the right side of the pocket over to the left, okay? And again, remember, use a pen that can be erased. Then you're going to take a ruler and you're going to mark that 5 1/4 inch line, making sure everything is squared up, because that'll be the stitch line we'll be sewing after we sew the 1/8 of an inch. I hope I didn't confuse anybody. You can always ask in the group or reference back to the material reading it. Okay, so when we get ready to go over the sewing machine, we're going to sew 1/8 of an inch here. Then we're going to come back and close this up here on the side, so you don't need that open anymore. Then we're going to be lining this up like this, and we'll be tacking this stitch down where it's at the 1 1/4 inch line. I'll be putting a clip there, okay? That's all we're going to be doing on that point. Then when we're at the sewing machine, we're going to finish doing the pleats, okay? So just pick all that up and put it aside for sewing. And now we're going to move on to the straps. Okay, so we're on page 10, and we're going to start doing the strap loops and decorative straps. And then we're going to come down to the handles, and then after that, we're going to go ahead and do the adjustable strap. So the first part we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and mark the center of all of our lines that we have cut out and put tape on them. And then we're going to fold them to the middle seam for them. I'm going to show you on this one, and then I'll do one from the strap, and then do one from the decorative one, and then I'll come back and show you how those assemble together. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing you want to do, this is 1 inch. You want to go ahead and find the center line. I generally will mark from both sides 1/2 inch, and I get that line. Then you want to turn around and put your tape on there. You just want to walk it across. Okay, you put your first line of tape on there, and then I come back and I do the second one. And this is your strap loop. So there's a measurement given in the pattern, and that'll be sewn in one piece, and then we're going to come back and cut those out at 2 3/8. We are saving all the sewing for the end, and then we'll come back and get the rest of the stuff prepped. Go ahead and give your tape a nice press. And what I like to do is remove the tape on both sides. So once you've removed your tape, we're going to go ahead and tape this together. We're going to go to that middle seam, and you're going to tape that all the way across. When we go over to the sewing machine, this will be sewn at 1/8 of an inch. And again, we'll come back and cut them at 2 3/8. So I'm just going to walk you through this one. And then I'll fast forward for the rest of the other ones. And now on the opposite side, you're going to meet them. They're going to kiss each other. So you have a 1/2 inch strap loop when it's finished. Give it a nice firm press so your tape doesn't come off. This is number 3 from page 10. And this is your strap loop prep. Okay. So this is the back side, and this will be the front side. We're going to go over to the sewing machine and sew 1/8 of an inch on each side. And for now, I'm just going to put this aside to sew later. The next one we're going to do is, there's 2 separate handles, okay? One is a decorative strap handle, and the other ones are regular strap handles. So the first one we're going to do right now is the decorative strap handle. So we have 2 decorative straps, and what you're going to do on this, and I'm only going to do it on one on camera, you have to do the other one off camera. This is 1 5/8 of an inch tall. You're going to go ahead and find the center. What I normally will do something like this, I'll mark 7/8 and then flip it over and do another 7/8. Or you can do 3/4. So that's one side was 7/8. And the other side is also going to be 7/8. Okay, so this will be my center right here on my decorative strap. So basically I'll just rule down to the center line when I'm taping it together. I hope that makes sense. Okay, then after that, you're going to go ahead and put your tape on each end. Just lay it on there. That's the best way to do it. I like to just pull up a lot of extra tape so it doesn't do weird stuff. And just lay it on there loosely and then press it down. So I'm not stretching out the strap. Okay, so once you get your tape on, just give it a nice little press one more time. Don't stretch out your fabric. I like to remove the tape on both sides again. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing we just did on the loop. We're going to go ahead and fold it to the center, making sure that at your ends you're staying cornered here. You don't want that off of there. Then I like to come back to this side, make sure it's straight on the corner, and do the exact same thing. Now we're going to flip it around and we're going to kiss them together. So they're kissing. Exact same thing. Okay, and just give it a nice press with your fingers and come back to the other side. And we're going to just continue doing this. Okay, so that piece is finished. And you're going to do the exact same thing to the other one. Now we're going to come over to the regular handles. And this is 2 inches. And we're going to go ahead and find the center once again. That'll be 1 inch. It's always best you leave a little bit of space in between and then come back and push it down. It keeps you from getting those twisted straps. And then make sure you line up your corners nice and square. Press it down a little bit more and come back and then start back on this side again. Now, we have 4 of those to do. So you're going to find the center line and then you're going to meet the straps on the back side. So it'll look like this when it's finished, okay? I'm going to do that off of camera and then I'm going to come back and show you how to assemble it together. Okay, so once you've got them complete, this is what they'll look like. You'll have 4 of the handles and 2 of the decorative straps. So what I want you to do is flip every other one set upside down, like this, okay? So what she's saying in the pattern is you're going to mark 1 from the front and 1 from the back. 1 from the front, 1 from the back. This is my decorative strap. I have 1 from the back, 1 from the front. What she wants you to do is take off 5/8 of an inch from each side of the back. This is going to be my front piece, and she wants you to mark 5/8 of an inch on each side from the front piece, okay? So you're going to take your back piece, mark your 5/8 of an inch, and then take a ruler and cut it off with a straight edge ruler. And you can throw that away. Then you come over to the other side and do the exact same thing. Line it up so it's 5/8 of an inch. And then cut that off. Then she instructs you to take tape. And on the back piece where you cut off the 5/8 of an inch, you're going to put a piece of tape. Give it a nice little press on there. And go ahead and cut the tape off. Okay. And then what you're going to do, I want to dry fit mine just for the video to show it to you. You're going to center this on there so it's like this, okay? You're going to have the 5/8 that you cut off over here and the 5/8 that you cut off over here on that front side, okay? So, that being said, you're going to remove the tape from the back side where you cut off the 5/8 of an inch. And you have your lines already marked for the 5/8. So we're going to go ahead and just put that on there. And you want to line these up straight so that they're both on top of each other correctly. And then you walk it all the way through. You should be meeting up on the 5/8 of an inch on this side, which it is. That's my line. And then I like to just give it a nice rough press or hard press. Double check it from the other side. You will be sewing on this side, not the side that the 5/8 has been taken off of, but on this side. She's going to tell you have to sew 1/8 of an inch, okay? I will take a hammer and knock this down a little bit just so that it's flat for my sewing machine because I am on my flatbed and not my cylinder arm. That way it's not so thick and bulky. You could also use a brayer and just go ahead and roll it in place. Now, she wants you to repeat the same process on the other pieces. So this shorter one, you can see it's shorter. This is your decorative strap. So you're going to do the exact same thing. Take a pair. You have the back and the front, okay? You're going to take and mark 5/8 of an inch on the front, back, whatever one you're going to cut. This is the one I'm going to cut. Mark it just so you know you have it there. You don't want to mess this up. It's a lot of fabric. Then you're going to take your top piece, which is going to look like this when it's done, and mark 5/8 of an inch on each side. Because that's where they're going to center up at. Make sure you're using a erasable pen or something that doesn't show. Okay. So that piece is ready to receive. Now I'm going to go back to my other piece that I have marked here to cut off. We're cutting up 5/8 of an inch. Double check your measurement before you cut. It's 5/8 of an inch. Cut that off and throw it away. Turn it around. Make sure it says 5/8 of an inch. Cut it off. Throw that away. I'm just going to double check this now before I put the tape on there so I can just put it on. And that is exactly centered onto those lines, okay? So I'm going to take my tape, putting my tape down the center, as indicated in the pattern. And I'm going to tape that on, and I'm going to go ahead and cut off the excess tape. And you're going to be repeating the exact same process. Line it up at the 5/8 of an inch mark. And then just walk this along so it's together correctly. Sometimes it might go off, so you just pick it back up and lay it down straight. And just double check it. Sometimes they just don't line up right. Okay, and then come and walk it all the way back across over here. It's 5/8 of an inch there. And you can just double check it this way too to make sure. And then I like to double check that way also. And that looks great. And if you're coming along here and you see a little edge up there and you don't like it, you can always just pick up your tape and make it go back down the way you want it. See? There you go. You're ready to go. Now we're going to repeat the exact same thing on this side. All right. Go ahead and clip these together and then put them aside to go and sew at the sewing machine. And then we're going to move on to the adjustable strap next. So on this one, it's 3 inches by 43 and 8 centimeters by 110 centimeters. You're going to go ahead and find your center and get that marked and get your edges taped and then fold them together. Okay, so on the adjustable strap, I'll be forwarding to this also, but it's going to be the exact same technique. You're going to go ahead and find your center line. It's 3 inches. And you're going to go ahead and draw a line. Draw your line at 3 inches. It's going to be 1.5. Okay, so now we're going to get ready to go sew. And we've prepped all this together for the first delivery. So the first thing we'll be sewing is the strap loop, then the decorative handle, then the other 2 handles, and we'll be finishing with the double slip pocket. All right, I'll meet you guys over at the sewing machine. Okay, so first we're going to start with the strap loop. It's 1/8 of an inch all the way around. We're going to go ahead and cut those down to 2 3/8 as directed in the pattern. I have my stitch length set at 5. And it's 1/8 of an inch. You don't have to back stitch in the beginning and the end because you'll be cutting it off anyways. Okay, we can go ahead and set that aside. We'll have to trim those down to 4 pieces at 2 3/8. Now, as directed in the pattern, she tells us that we have to sew 1/8 of an inch on the handles. I'm not sure if they're going to be folded down like this or like this, but I would go ahead and start stitching right around here so you can hide it or pull the stitches to the back. So this again is going to be 1/8 of an inch. You can leave your thread tails a little bit longer so you can tie it off. And this is a decorative strap. 1/8 of an inch. And just be sure that when you come to this area right here, that you have that tucked in so it doesn't fold over on you or something, okay? Then we're going to go ahead and pull those off and get them snipped. You can tie them off later. Then we're going to do the next handle and we're going to repeat the same process. Again, it's 1/8 of an inch. Now, if you come across here and you see that this is starting to come out, you can just twist this just a slightly bit and continue sewing, and that should disclose from sticking out. My machine likes to run off stitches at the end. I don't know why. I've got this positioner on there, and every once in a while I'll just decide to take off and do extra stitches, so I just hand turn it towards the corners. Go ahead and pull that off, and you can tie your stitches to the back again later. And then we're going to repeat this one more time. Okay, so now we're going to do the adjustable strap. So I like to start, this is the opening side. I like to just start a little bit on the other side of it, and then we come down, up and around. So we'll start right here on this and go up and around, all right? I like to pull my threads to the back always on my adjustable straps so I can tie them off and put a rivet in them. So we'll get that prepared and ready to go. This is also 1/8 of an inch. Move the clip out of the way. And I'll try to keep my fingers out of the way as well. My stitch length is still set at 5, and let's go ahead and do the adjustable strap. Tie these off later at the machine. So I saved this part for last, which is the double slip pocket piece. I just want to make sure that you guys have downloaded this material. It's the double slip pocket assembly that is in your PDF link. So it just goes over what you're going to need for material. The instruction part that we've already done up to number 4. And now we're going to go ahead and go to number 6, the bottom part right here. And we're going to go ahead and sew a 1/8 of an inch top stitch. Okay. So you need to go ahead and back stitch in the beginning and the end. Now, she said we could go ahead and stitch down the sides to close it up. So we're just going to go ahead and continue right on to this one at 1/8 of an inch. Probably need your hump jumper right there. Probably be advised. Sorry, I'm still having to have my training wheels on, learning how to reuse my flatbed again. Okay, go ahead and cut off the threads. Okay, well now we're going to cut off threads on this side and do the other side. Back stitch in the beginning and the end. Just take your time over the sticker material. Then you probably get by without having to use a hump jumper. Yeah. Try just gunned it too fast. Too excited. All right, snip those threads. So now we're going to go ahead and take the front panel interior. And as I pointed out in the video before, we're going to be marking 1/4 inch down just to make it a little bit more simplified for you guys. I went ahead and did a couple testers on this. You can go ahead and measure from the bottom up to 2 5/8 of an inch. Because what happens there, that pocket will fit perfectly right in between, just like this. Okay, so you shouldn't have any problems with, you know, it going outside that line. So the next step that we're going to do is we're going to sew the left side of that pocket to the front lining piece. So just go ahead and, if you can, get between your marks 1 1/4 and 2 5/8 and secure it in place so that you know you're sewing it properly. And then go ahead and clip it on the other side as well, just to make sure that it stays straight. Okay, and I'll be sewing from the bottom up. You want to stay around 1/8 of an inch. You don't want to go out of that parameter, because more than likely, because of course we know it's a secret sew, we don't know exactly what we're sewing or what is the next stitch on there. So it's better to play it safe. Back stitching in the beginning and the end. Making sure that this stays on the line that it belongs on. You basically just want to get it tacked in place where it belongs. Okay, so go ahead and cut that thread off. The next step we're going to do, making sure that you're staying on your line right here. Keep the clips in place where they are. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to do this line. This line was 5 1/4 from this side to this side. Okay, so we're going to back stitch in the beginning and the end, and I'm going to pull the threads to the back and tie them off. So just make sure that it's staying flat. Come in here and do your back stitches and stitch straight down. Okay, just make sure you're staying on your line here. You have a couple of things that are guiding you. Okay, and then you're going to pull your threads to your back. So the next step, I want to make it very clear, okay? If you have a cotton fabric or something you can pierce with a needle, then you can pin this back. But because of vinyl and waterproof canvas, you can't. So you're going to want to fold it over like this and then clip it a little. Hopefully you're getting this on camera here. Go ahead and clip it so it's out of the way a little, because you want to clip this over here. Okay, and then turn it back around facing you and make sure you're on your lines that you marked. I'm going to show this to you. See your line you marked right there. You want that one to be there at the 1/4 inch line. And put that there. Then you're going to come back here and do the bottom. So I gave you that measurement, which was 2 5/8. Just clip it right there on that line, okay? Now, I'm going to get a couple more clips and put them on there. All right. And then just go back and double check that it stayed on the line where it belongs. They move around a little bit. Okay. And now we'll be stitching a 1/8 of an inch stitch here. When you get to the bottom, do not pull your needle out, because I'm going to show you how to do this pleat. So it'll be one continuous stitch, okay? Okay, it's 1/8 of an inch, back stitch in the beginning and the end. Do not pull your needle out at the bottom. Okay, make sure everything's lined up. And then we're just going to go ahead and stitch it in place, 1/8 of an inch. And making sure you're staying here on the bottom where you belong. Right here, okay? And now I have the other camera view now. Right here. We're going to be stopping here at 1/8 of an inch, doing a back stitch, keeping your needle down, and then we're going to pivot. Well, my guy got crazy on me here. Sometimes it does what he wants. All right, so we're at 1/8 of an inch right there, okay? Leave your needle in the down position, okay? Take this off, take this off. I'm going to these clips out of the way. I put this other camera here for this purpose, okay? There's 3 lines here. 1, 2, 3. You want to take your middle line and pull it up to where these 2 lines meet each other, okay? Sometimes it's a little bit unruly, so you just got to push it out of the way. So you're going to take this middle line like that. Okay, I hope you guys can see me okay. You're taking the middle line, okay? And you're meeting these 2 together. The other 2, it's like, these 2 are like going to go on a date together, and they're leaving the other guy out. So my coffee mate and I, we're going to go coffee, and Stefan has to stay home. So you push it together like that, okay? So you have this little thing. You're going to lay it down just like this. And you're going to keep your fabric aligned on that line that I gave you, which was 2 5/8, okay? And we're going to sew a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. When you get over the top of the pleat, go ahead and back stitch 1 or 2 times and go back forward again. Okay? Now we're stopped right there. You have all this extra Coca-Cola stuff going on here. Reminds me of a Coca-Cola cozy. Well, as a kid, I was playing with them. Now what you're going to do is just flatten this down. Flatten it straight down on that line that we drew, that 2 5/8 from the bottom. Straighten it out if you have to. Okay? Fix the camera a little bit so you can see better. And now we're going to go ahead and sew a 1/8 of an inch top stitch. The rest of the way through, back stitching on the next pleat. Now the rest of the way, which is sitting on that line right there, you're just going to sew straight across at 1/8 of an inch, back stitching at the end. Now that you're done and you got the threads cut off, you can pat yourself on the back because that was a big accomplishment. This is what it looks like. Go back to the iron and remove all your erasable lines or wipe them off, whichever product you had. And then I'll meet you guys back over at the work table, and then we'll finish doing the last prep part for delivery 1. All right, so this is everything we've completed so far between prep work and sewing for delivery 1. The last 2 things we have left to prep are going to be your straps, your loopers, and your adjustable strap. So you can take your pocket for your interior front, which looks like this one is finished. You put that aside. And then you have your 2 handles, and remember they have the 5/8 on the back. And then your decorative handle. We'll take those and remove them out of the way. So first we're going to start on the strap loops. And the directions on page 10, number 4, after we've made the 1/8 of an inch top stitch, which we've already completed, she's telling us to cut the prepared straps into strips, okay? This is a tip for you guys. I got some glue basted, and what I did is I came along with an erasable pen and marked 2 3/8, and then came back up a little bit more and marked between 2 3/8 and 2 1/2. Then I did that again. So I have all my lines I need to cut. Then I went ahead and put the glue basted on. I put it on the holes for the stitches before and after my cut line. And I did that all the way down on each part. Then I flipped it over and I did the same thing on the back side. And I went ahead and glued the little holes right there where I'm going to be cutting it. And the reason I'm pointing out this tip to you is I don't know how many times you guys have put straps together, the little loops, and when you go to cut it, they're all just frayed apart. So I just like to make sure that we have a more successful part that's going on here, okay? All right, so let's get started on that. You're going to need your ruler, and you're going to need a rotary cutter or scissors, whichever you prefer. So we're going to be cutting these at 2 3/8. So line them up straight and give them a cut. Okay? That's what that will look like on both sides. So because I put the glue here, I don't have the frayed off edges, all right? Now I'm going to go to the next one and repeat the exact same thing. We're going to put this at 2 3/8. And I did mark a little bit before and after the lines that I marked, so when I do cut them, I don't have the frayed edges. So see, here's the second one, no frayed edges. Now in the middle one, I come back and cut this line that's left over here, just so that I stay where my glued marks are. You don't have to do that, it's just something that I do. Okay, then you come back up this way at 2 3/8. And give that a cut. And by putting that glue on there, there's no frayed threads. Okay, and then we do that on the last one, which is also 2 3/8. Just making sure everything is straight. Okay, and then give it your final cut. And throw that away, and there you go. Now, we have 4 strap loops, back and front side. There is no frayed edges. Looks nice and clean. So whatever we're doing with it, which we don't know because it's a secret sew and you don't know till you know. So I'm going to go ahead and put those aside for now. The next part we're going to work on is going to be the adjustable strap. Okay. Now I would like you to pay attention a little bit here. This is the way that I put my strap loop together. Okay. So the first thing I do is I come in here and I just look to make sure that I'm straight. And I'm not particularly fond of that, and I like to have a straight edge here. So I just clean this edge up a little bit, making sure that it's straight. Because sewing and everything can shift it. And just go ahead and rotary cut it straight. Okay. Do that on both sides, just so that it's straight. Makes for a more successful sew. Be sure not to cut your stitch line. Okay, so that part is finished. Okay, now you have to determine which one is going to be your front and what's going to be your back. My rule of thumb that I try to follow, so I'm consistent on all my bags, is the edge that was folded. You have the 2 lines right there. That is always going to be my right side. That's where I'm going to do everything. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out the hardware. I'm going to give you some measurements to use, okay? Okay, so for the adjustable strap, you're going to need some way to pierce your holes for your rivets. You're going to need your strap slider and your 2 strap hooks. Erasable pen, a ruler, and then if you want to put the decorative straps on the ends, okay? For the decorative straps, I'll be using the Glue Master Thick Viscosity Super Glue. Okay, so let's get started here. I'm working on this. This is my outside, okay? So like when I put my loop, my strap slider on here, it's going to sit like this. Facing me, it's always going to be to the right. That's the double side, okay? You just need to pick one side and just keep it that way always. That way you'll never get it confused, okay? So I know that if I lay this down here, I'm going to fold it here and put a rivet here. So the first part on the strap we're going to prepare for is the strap slider. You're going to come down 3 inches and mark 3 inches. Something that is erasable. That is where you're going to fold for your strap looper and your rivet. Okay, I like to get that a little press with my fingers. just to have it. Then I'm going to come up, and you can use whatever measurements you want, but this is the rule that I use. So I come up at 5/8 of an inch, keeping it centered. And I mark my 5/8 of an inch. Then I'm going to come up to 2 3/8 centered on my strap. And mark that. Okay, that's for my rivets. Then I'm going to take my rivet punch or my hole punch. You're going to go ahead and go on those marks and punch your hole, or you can use an owl, whatever works for you to make your rivet holes. Okay? Then I'm going to come down here and do the same thing at the 5/8 of an inch mark. Okay? I'm going to test it with the post from my rivet. Fold it down to that 3-inch line. The posts always go from the back to the front. So your public side always is going to have the head. That way, in the event that you have to remove the rivet, you always know that your public side is that, okay? So that works. So once you put on your strap keeper, that is what that will look like, okay? Now, Sammy showed us decorative end pieces. I have mine from my old scrapbooking days. So I'm just going to show you how to do this real quick, because you want to put these on before you put your rivet on, okay? The first thing you want to do is put your strap slider on before you put any decorative ends on. You can just get it in there and slide it out of the way. Okay? So that's that. The next step you want to do is do a dry run to make sure that the decorative piece that you have is going to fit on your piece. Okay? Just like that. And they fit. Okay? You're going to need a pinching pliers and some super glue, or however you want to adhere it on there. You don't have to have super glue, but I'm going to use super glue. You don't need a lot, just a small amount, because you want it to stay in place. So you're going to put a couple of dabs of glue on here. Try not to get it on your fingers because it might stick to it. And just kind of put it where I want it to be. You might want to make a little test piece, a short one out of your scrap material, and test on that with your decorative strap before you put it on. Now, you're going to take this, whoops. You're going to take this and put it in the corner and just get it in there the way you want it. And you might have to hold it there for like, I don't know, 10 seconds. All right, if you know it's secured, which mine's still not secured yet, then you can start pinching it in place. So turn it around to your front side. And that's the way you want it. Then you can go ahead and take your pliers. They're really kind of tricky to work with, so I would practice before using them. Had a little bit of problems with them doing it. Okay. So that looks like that. Okay. Now you're going to take your strap slider and bring it back to where it belongs. You're going to bring it into the down position. If this falls off, just push it back on. You might have to go back and fix it with a little bit of glue, because I had problems with mine. Another alternative is you could just put fabric on the end of it, or you can use the metal pieces, or you could just go with nothing, okay? Now you're going to take your rivet from the back side, bringing it to the front, because your public side is where you want your rivet to come through. Put your rivet cap on until you hear it pop. Once you hear it pop, it's on there where it belongs. Then you're going to take your press. I'm going to take it sideways so you guys can see it. I like to go upside down on mine. And everybody's different. And just press it in place. Okay. So that part's done. Okay. So your strap slider with your decorative end on there, okay? Now, a lot of people get confused on this, and if you do this often, you'll remember what you're supposed to be doing, okay? So, with this side facing you, you're going to take the other side, not to make it crooked, and slide on your strap hook. Let it slide all the way down. Sorry. Let it slide all the way down. Without twisting it, on this side facing you, it's going to come up and then back down. Okay? So what's going to happen here is this is sandwiched in between. So you don't see it, okay? All right, I'm going to slide this down a little bit more so I can work with it for the video. Once I have it slid down to the way I have it, so I like it so I can work with it, I just clip it in place so that it doesn't get in my way. You don't have to do that. That's up to you. Okay? So this is your public side. All right? So you want to flip it over, and we're going to repeat the exact same thing. We're going to measure at 3 inches. Okay? And mark it with a pen that you can erase. Then we're going to come back down at 5/8 of an inch. 5/8 of an inch. Finding your center. Okay, look. 5/8 of an inch. Finding the center. Okay? And you're going to mark it. So it looks like that. Okay? Then you're going to do the exact same thing at 2 inches, at 2 3/8 of an inch. Making sure that you're in the center. Mark your line. And we're going to do the exact same thing we just did for the strap slider. You're going to punch out a hole in the center. Okay. Okay, then you're going to get your decorative piece back out again, or whatever you're deciding to put on the end. Put that aside. Don't use it yet. You need to put your strap hook on there first, because once you get this on, it's sometimes hard and those come off. So slide it down. Just double check your rivet hole. We're going to do that first. And take our rivet post. Put it from back to front. Just making sure that it works, and it does. You can put your cap on and test it as well. Okay. Take that back off. Take that back off. Slide this out of the way. Then you can take this again and make sure it dry fits on there. If they don't fit exactly, you can widen them up just a little bit too with your pliers. Just don't bend them too much. A lot of times you can just do it with your fingers. If anybody has a good link for these decorative strap bookends, please put them in the comments below. I looked on Amazon, ordered a bunch of them. I wasn't impressed. These are left over from my scrapbooking days, like I said. Okay. So you're going to do a dry run fit first, making sure that it fits. It's facing me. Okay. Okay, that fits. I like the fit. Go ahead and get your super glue out again. And go ahead and put your glue on there. If you use too much, just go ahead and use a scrap piece of fabric and wipe some of it off. You don't want that drooling all over the place. Okay. Then go from the corner out, keeping your fingers out of the glue, and give it a good push down so that it fits over the cover the way you like it. And then I would just hold that in place for a little bit. And just make sure you have the back side as well. If you don't, pinch it in there. There you go. Okay, and just hold it in place. And then that should hold. Okay, so then you're going to come down here. Oops, I'm going to pinch it in place too. Start in the middle and work your way out on each side, holding it in place still. This glue I use sets fast. So just give it a little bit of a pinch so it stays in place. Okay, so that's your decorative strap end. Come back to your loop. Bring it down where it belongs. From the back side, put your rivet post. Stick it in there. On the public side, put your cap. Pull out your rivet thing, however you're going to set it. And give it a press. And there you go. So this concludes our Secret Sewing delivery number 1. So I hope you've learned a lot from me during this lesson. We have completed our adjustable strap. We've got 4 strap loops. We have 2 handles, 1 decorative handle, and a cool interior front slip pocket. So if you guys have any problems along the way, please reach out in the Facebook group, and everybody there is willing to help. Leave comments below of anything that you might have gotten confused on. Remember, in the pin below on YouTube is where I will be posting little references that we did along the way, just so you guys have them. It was a little bit confusing when I had made you guys a resource material. So I'm just going to go ahead and pin it below in YouTube. And you guys can always ask me on Facebook. You can reach out to anybody. Everybody's so helpful. I hope you guys liked this delivery one from Shamballa Bags, Loretta, Secret Sew. And you know what? You know it when you know it, but we don't know it because it's a secret sew. All right, I'll see you guys in 4 more days for delivery 2. All right, choo-choo.